Hello, gorgeous human beings of the Renaissance Masterclass. I am very happy with the feedback of yesterday. May I just say, I feel like this first module has knocked it out of the park, and I'm extremely happy and extremely excited about the direction of this for the entire group. I've seen some incredible shares. Obviously, I can't comment on everyone's. I've read a lot more than the ones I've commented on, but you guys are amazing. And I love the way you're processing this information. It's actually as cool for me to lead it as it is to see how you're receiving it. It's really awesome. So just wanted to give you a shout out for all of you that posted in the group and who've been like doing the inner work. You're really adding a lot of value to the group. And so thank you for everything that you are doing. So what we're going to do today, we're going to move into the wounding. This is a really important module. It was really difficult for me to make the decision to make this a 3-day masterclass. There was so much that I wanted to put into this, but I know that this is the transmission for Renaissance, and the rest of this is meant to be an alpha to alpha. And so for those of you who are already registered for alpha to alpha, and this is like the precursor to alpha, it's setting the tone for what we're going to be talking about leadership wise. There's so much to talk about when it comes to leadership, but what I find is that when you can focus on one very potent thing and really give it all of your attention, magic starts to happen. We're in a world where a lot of information is circulating, and people do this thing where they just devour information. But if you're able to just place things in your mind in like compartments. So I figured that this exact transmission could have been a part of alpha to alpha also. I could have just made it a part of alpha to alpha, but it has its own transmission, it has its own energy. And I wanted you to be able to always remember, this is the Renaissance conversation. So there's so much more I want to say. I've seen so many incredible questions and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just unpack all of it. This is the precursor to alpha. It's a magical 3-day thing within itself. And you're going to understand when you do alpha to alpha why I split them, because this really is a conversation I wouldn't want to kind of bleed into the other one. I want this one and then I want this one, because this is such a potent transmission. So the first thing I want to do today is I want to read for you what was the energy, the transmission basically for Renaissance. And I'm going to read you this text. You've seen parts of it in the animation, but I'm going to read it because everything we're doing today is very much connected to this piece. And so I'm going to read it at the beginning and I'm going to read it again at the end, and it's going to land very powerfully. So, history has shown us that as communication between communities and cultures become easier, the world changes. The more access we have to each other, the more we learn to listen, adapt, and course correct, the faster the world changes. Sometimes so fast, it seems we're reborn. Feminine energetics and leadership will take the world as we know it beyond what we can comprehend today. As we truly hear each other, put our egos aside and pivot, with our heels in the same direction, we lead a new paradigm. What if we could bring forward a new era in leadership, art, modern day literature, a new age Renaissance? What brought this forward for me, because I had been in Paris and we've been going through all the incredible museums and really learning deeply while we're there. And I know alpha to alpha is coming, and I'm always open to life teaching me. I'm always open to the trust that if I land in a place, I'm supposed to be there, and there's something in there that's supposed to show up for me. And so as we're learning about the Renaissance, the actual Renaissance, that period in time, there's something I learned that it gave me chills. Like I knew I had to pay attention to this piece when I heard about it. And what it was is that around this period of time, it became easier for people, just normal people, to write manuscripts. They had the press, they were able to like print on paper. And so normal people started being able to discuss things And all of a sudden, all different religions started talking. And all kinds of different ways of seeing life started seeing each other. And all of a sudden there was this like, whoa, wait, what? What do you believe? What do we believe? What were you told? What were we told? Hang on a second. And there was this huge change in the world. There was a change in architecture, literature, art. There was a change in everything because all of a sudden, people got to see things together. When you walk into the Louvre and you see all the art pieces, it's crazy how it's like, okay, Egypt is over there, and then you've got Greece over there, and you've got old, Italian ruins over here. Like, and this was collected when this war was happening, and this war was collected when this war is happening. Conversations started occurring between people, and the world changed. Because until this point, everything and everyone was kind of separated. Now, we are living in a world where there's still separation, and there's still communities all over the world that don't have a connected voice. But on the flip side of that, we have never been more connected than we are now. It's never been clearer, ever, that we're all living a very similar experience of being a human. No matter where we live in the world, there are very profound similarities. And one of the biggest similarity that I have found with social media, and it's like it screams at us, is that people are wounded, profoundly, deeply wounded, upset, afraid that they don't matter, afraid that they're not good enough, wanting to be something and at the same time terrified of trying it and failing, wanting to be something and already deciding that that's not in the cards for them, triggered by people who have what they've always wanted, angry at people who are doing it in a way that they don't agree with. It's like the world is so similar. And if we really pay attention to that, what we would see is that we're so the same. Even though the things we're thinking are different, our reactions are, I've had enough of this, our wound, our pain, our sadness, our disappointment, our anger, it's all so similar. And so I had to think to myself, like, what is the biggest thing here? What's the monumental issue? And I'm going to tell you what I've come to get over the years, and how this lands in this container and how this makes sense here. Now, again, have discernment. If this doesn't fit for you, it's fine. But I'm just going to share wholeheartedly what I have understood, what I've seen through my decade in mentorship, through the evolution of everything that I've taught, and landing here right now as things are. Here's what I've realized. Now, Amy's saying things are choppy. Is it choppy for anybody else? No. Okay, good. Just before I get into the important parts, I want to make sure this is not choppy. So, history also shows us that the way civilization has worked is there's power, and then there's the people who respond to the power. This is how the world works. Whether it is the kings, whether it's the presidents, whether it's whatever it is that's the power source, the religion, throughout the times, there's a guiding power, and then there is everyone who's meant to collaborate to that guiding power. And in order for that to be possible, it has been very important for the power to control the masses, for the masses to not overpower the power. Because if you think about it, there's a lot more of us than the ones in power. There's a lot more of the people. And so the only way to keep people from taking over the power is to disempower the people. I don't think the thought of how psychologically harming this could be over time was really considered. I think the only thing that was considered was how to keep some people in power as best as possible. But here's how they went about it. They made it that in order to feel like a good human, we have to be humble. This is one of the top things we're taught. I remember being taught this as a little kid. It's very important, especially when I win a game and I'm really proud of me. And there's a part of me that wants to go, I was taught very early that's not nice, right? So if you read the definition of humble in the dictionary, the sad thing is that I'm going to see, I think I had pasted it here for us. I'll pull it back up. I'm going to read you what humble means. It's not good. So we've been taught that this is the way to be, but the meaning of the word humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. So what they're saying is, if you're going to be a good person, you've got to have, or at least show. So if it doesn't actually get to you and you think you're great, then at least don't show that. Have or show a modest or low estimate of your own importance. This is the rule to be a good person. Think, feel if you can. If you can feel it, it's better for us. But if you can't feel it, then at least pretend that you don't think you're important. If you can do that, we are going to have no problems. And we said, okay. And the reason we said okay is because we were shown examples of what people with high importance would do. And they showed us that they were very bad people, the people with high self-importance. They did really bad things. They did bad things with their money. They did bad things with their power. They were bad. And they showed us those people. And they said, if you don't work on this humble thing, you will end up like this. And we said, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to be like that. And so from very, very, very young, every time you had any thought that you're actually great, you felt really bad about that because it might mean that you're actually a bad person. And so you squished it. And then you squished it again. And you let certain people empower you because they were the leaders. So it was okay for a teacher to tell you you were great. And it was okay for a parent to tell you you were great if you were lucky enough to have that happen. But for the rest of the world, even your parents and probably the society, teachers, whoever had the power to tell you you were great, also told you not to tell anybody because that's not cool. So I can tell you you're great and you can receive that validation from me, but you can't provide it for yourself or feel it yourself, because if you do, you will be unstoppable. Now, for a very long time, a lot of people, the masses, think to themselves and feel to themselves that they are not good enough. And that means that they are good. The fact that you experience that you're not good enough makes you a good person. So you don't really want to change that, although you really want to change that, because fundamentally you want to change that, but deep down inside you also don't want to be a bad person. And so what starts to happen is if one person in a pack starts to emancipate from this and says, I'm great, I don't care what society says, I'm great. Everybody else says, you can't say that. Have you lost your marbles? And why should you be allowed to say that if I'm not allowed to say that? You think you're better than me? Like, no, not particularly. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I just think I'm great. Psh. You can't go around saying things like this. It's not allowed. Says who? I'm gonna break the rules. And the rule breakers start to change the world. People talk about them. That person's crazy. That person literally thinks they're so great they can change the freaking world. And then they do. So we're seeing a pattern. The people who are saying, I'm freaking great, they annoy people a lot. People are like, I don't like you with your love of yourself. You make me wonder if maybe I should love myself, and then I feel guilty because I know if I ever loved myself, I'd be bad. So I can't do that. But the thing is, now with social media, something crazy has started to happen, is that we're all just talking about it without talking about it. Every person who's loud and proud about how great they feel gets a bunch of haters. And everybody who's loud and proud about how great they feel are looking for a community of people who are not going to shame them. Doesn't that tell us something? There's a lot of leaders on the rise, but there's never been historically space for this many leaders, because usually there's one channel for leadership. The most power you're going to have is the office. You will be the boss of a certain amount of people. And even then, you probably feel small everywhere else in your life. And so then you're a tyrant boss because your leadership is limited to an office space when you should be probably leading something so big. And so you overutilize your power on a very small group of people because you're supposed to lead a huge thing, but you're wasting your power away because there's no other place for you to be a leader. This is happening everywhere. We're meant to have extraordinary leadership on this planet. Except the very things that would make us extraordinary leaders we're not allowed to cultivate. It takes self-importance. We talked about this in the buyer when I was talking about becoming the kind of person who doesn't sell, who just attracts buyers. That's leadership. When the people who lead themselves to you, this is leadership. And one of the biggest pieces we were talking about in the buyer that had to do with leadership was as your love of people grows, your self-importance also needs to grow, because if not, you undercharge ferociously because you care about people so much, but then you're worried that you're overcharging, and so you cut yourself short because you don't want to be too proud and you don't want to be too successful because people are going to say all kinds of things about you, and so you shrink your self-importance, you increase your love, and next thing you know, you're overgiving, you have no more energy, you're like a little puddle on the floor, but at least everyone around you is happy, and then you're a good person, and everyone's so proud of you for being such a good person. So we want to talk about the balance when it comes to leadership, the extraordinarily important balance of the love of people versus the love of ourselves. I really believe that there are extraordinary leaders on this planet. I also believe that it's possible that power can go to people's heads. I do believe that entirely. But this is how, as a society, I believe we have failed. Instead of empowering people as they grow into more power to be surrounded by wise, sage, humble people, we try to make everybody humble. Instead of having a council to love and support the leaders, to ensure their hearts don't turn, to ensure their egos don't run wild, we just completely discredit leadership out of fear that all leaders will become tyrants and terrible people because power just goes to people's head. We haven't evolved leadership. We literally prevented it. Anyone with a leadership bone in their body was told, careful with that bone, it'll make you ugly. Careful with that bone, it'll make you evil. Careful with that bone, because people can tell you have it and they will even expect that you're those things just because you have that bone. Careful with that bone. Careful with that part of you. Hide it a little bit. Don't talk about it. Make sure you don't talk about it. Make sure you're not loud about it. Make sure nobody knows about it, that you're great. And don't actually feel it, because the minute you start to feel it, might all go to your head and you'll become a terrible person. Instead of saying, it has come to our awareness that as the leaders of our time evolve into great power, they seldom lose themselves. Their hearts go cold, their egos grow large, and they lose their kindness and compassion. Let us ensure that the leaders of our time are surrounded by a council that can ensure their heart stays pure and their mind stays clear and their ego stays in check and their self-care stays strong, because leaders are gifts to us. Let us help the leaders of our time evolve correctly for a world that works. But no counsel. As a matter of fact, tell them it's lonely at the top. Make them feel so lonely that by the time their power self-actualizes, they feel alone, judged, and need to literally numb with every single thing on the planet because they cannot handle the inner conflict that although they've become everything they were supposed to be, they feel like a bad person. Because social media is telling them they're a bad person every day. Half the population hates them just because they're in power. And we lose our leaders to their own minds. So many incredible leaders incapable of going the distance because they just cannot take the pressure of being hated so much, of having to prove that they're good people over and over and over again. Or they end up doing bad things. Because when you tell a person long enough that when you get power, it goes to your head and you do bad things, sometimes it gets to you and you do just that. And maybe some people say, you know what? If everybody thinks I'm bad, I might as well be bad. Instead of fighting to tell people I'm not bad, F it. I'm bad. I'm real bad. And I don't care. Because you know what? I might as well, because I get as much grief whether I'm bad or not. So I'm bad. So bad. What a waste. What a shame. So what we're seeing is some leaders making it and doing exactly what we were told, and then broadcasting that majorly to show us and remind us, look what happens when you believe in yourself. It's the demise of the human race, right? We either have that, we either have the people who are kind and make it to the top and get completely destroyed because you're not supposed to have that kind of self-importance. And so whether you're a good person or not, we hate you. Or we have these incredible leaders with extraordinary potential who are too afraid to move. Cue us. Because no matter how successful we are in this room, not one of us is as big as we're supposed to be, myself included. There is so much more to all of us, but the amount of fear that we walk with is so intense that it will stop us unless we change the narrative around leadership. And someone needs to change the narrative, which means we're going to need leaders to lead the new era of leadership. That's what's going to have to happen. And the thing with leadership is it is about actual movement. Philosophing and thinking is a super important part of this process. And for a lot of us in this personal development world, this has become the gateway for most people to think. Because in thought, you can be anything. But the leaders of our time, they're not just thinkers. They do something with those thoughts. That's why I really prone leadership in mentorship, because what we really need is people who actually make the thoughts come true. We need to see people who talk about things and think about things that are so next level and then embody them for the world to see. Because feminine energy, leadership is let's go together. How can we go together if I'm not going? Masculine energy leadership is go, 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 go. You can do it. Go faster. Yes. Pull it, push it, bop it, pull it, pass it. Do it. Yes. You're good. Keep going. I'll give you 50 cents more if you do it faster. Do it again. Do it more. Do it more. While I'm sitting here, rich. It's the bop it. It's basically, I'm here, cozy, telling you to do it more, do it now, or else. Feminine leadership is, let's go. I move, you move. Just like that. Feminine energy is like, I'm leading and I'm speaking to you as I'm leading, which means you've got to be walking next to me. It's not leadership from the front. It's not leadership from the back. It's the kind of leadership where we're like, we'll do this together. We've got this, which is a very unique kind of leadership because historically it's been one leads the pack. And it's about having leaders have followers, which means creating tiny little bubbles of one person in power with a bunch of people that are not in power. This industry is all about together we rise, shoulder to shoulder. Anyone can surpass anything. There's no hierarchy. There is none. The only one there is in our head if we decide it's there. And I remember when I first started in this industry, I already thought there was no way I'd ever make it big here, because I remember looking at big names in the industry and thinking all the spots were taken and I would never be successful, not really successful, but it didn't matter. I would be the invisible coach and I would help people one by one and I would make a difference, but I would never be successful because all the spots were taken. That's not the way this industry works. Literally anyone can rise and shoot to the stars and beyond, and then someone else can go further tomorrow. There's no limit. The sky isn't even the limit. We can have, we can do, we can be absolutely everything and anything that we want. And we go further together. And some people go further faster, and they're just examples for us. And we need new people coming in and doing wild, unreasonable things so we don't get too comfortable thinking there's a limit, because there isn't. And we don't even want to be looking at each other, looking for evidence of what's the norm and what we should be able to do. We need people who break the freaking mold and who go, you did what in how much time? What? We need this. It's important so that we can be mind blown and not get so comfortable in the predictable only. Because predictable is good and it keeps us healthy and safe because it's like regulating our nervous systems. But there's a whole other world outside of predictability. There's what's possible in this world, and there's what's potential in this world, which is far beyond. We can tap into all of that, where manifestation and leadership meet at the crossing. But for that, we need extreme amounts of courage, because leadership is about taking a chance on something you don't know is going to work. And here's what I've come to boil it down to. This is what I think the issue is. We are so comfortable with our problems that we would rather keep the same problem forever and dream of what our life would be without it. This is the greatest, easiest combination for human beings. Continue to rock the problem you have. Continue to lick the wound you've got. Lick the wound you've got for as long as you live. And dream. It's the most beautiful jail. It's the most beautiful trap. The wound you're willing to take care of and tend to forever, and the dream that's normal that you don't have because it's so big, or because you've put something in the way of your leadership, something so perfect for you that you won't let yourself free from it. There's something about your face that just isn't good enough. It's sad. It's real sad, really. Because had you been born looking different, you could have been, the greatest person on earth, but there's just something about your face. So unfortunately, it's going to be less, but that's okay, because you can handle that wound. You can handle that wound, and you can dream, because there's other things you might do one day, and we're going to see, but it's the face. That's just nothing you can do about this for now, but it's okay. It's okay. You've made peace with that. And so it's your financial situation. If you had been, oh my gosh, if you had access to resources, you'd be doing, are you kidding me? If you had access to resources, you'd be doing all these things, and that's okay. You understand that. You've made peace with that. You can handle that wound of not being financially free. It's fine. It's okay, because one day you'll crack that code and you're going to do such big things, but not right now. And that's okay. And it hurts, and you tend to that wound daily, and it hurts. But you know what? It's your personality. The thing is, you're very short-tempered like this, and it would just not be fair for other people. You haven't quite figured out how to be in a relationship yet. And that's hard. That's really hard. And if people understood your pain, they'd feel so bad for you, because the fact is, it's real hard. You've tried your whole life to fit in, you just don't. And that's the hard thing. But you have this vision of the day where you're going to be freed from that, and that day is going to be amazing. But in the meantime, it sucks. It hurts. You're just not the outgoing type. You're just not the people type. And it's really hard for you. And that's just the wound that you're going to have to be okay with. You name it. You're fragile. You're sensitive. There's something about it. Your health, it's just not quite right. And if you were the kind of person who could go and do these big things in the world, oh my gosh, you'd be doing them for sure. You'd be doing them. And you're working on it. You're working on it. You're taking care of it. But you've also made peace with it. That you're just not one of those people with the energy, the stamina. You just don't have it. But it's okay. It's okay. This is your wound. But oh my gosh, one day, on the day that this gets healed, oh my gosh, would you do great things? Oh my gosh, you'd be the greatest leader of all time. But right now, it is just, what the real problem is? It's the mental clarity. It's the mental clarity that you don't have. You've just never had it. You see everybody else around you. They know what they're going for. They know what they're supposed to do. You don't know. You don't know. It's not clear. You don't know what you want to do. Oh, but if you knew, you'd succeed at anything. History has shown you, when you know what you're doing, you can do anything better than anybody else, but you just don't know right now. It's just this mental confusion, and it's devastating, but you know what? You've learned to live with that. It's a difficult wound, but you live with that. That's your battle. But in your mind, oh my gosh, if you could be the one who had the thing, you would. You know what it is with you? You have no willpower. And it's so sad. It's so sad that you have no willpower, because if you had willpower, you would do everything. Like, you see some of those people, the people with the human design people with the defined willpower. Those people are so lucky. Oh my gosh. These people with the defined willpower, who are just like, they say they're going to do something and they do it, but like, you don't have that peace. And that's so hard. It's so difficult. You live with that daily. It's the greatest disappointment of your life that you weren't born with that peace. It's so hard. You just don't have it. But maybe in a book somewhere, or in a course somewhere, someone will say something, and one day you'll be motivated. And on that day, you will change everything. And there are so many dreams. There are so many dreams that you will do one day. But in the meantime, you're going to have to deal with this sad, sad truth that you just weren't born with willpower. You have the perfect wound for you. It's perfect. It's perfect for you because it feels true and you literally know exactly how to keep making it true. Your entire behavior is completely shaped around this being true, and you are excellent at living with this wound. Yes, it sucks. Of course it sucks. Of course, if you could just will it away, you would. Maybe. But the thing is, you have in your belief system this beautiful lie, which is that on the day that that belief goes away, you're going to get to be everything that you could ever dream of. And now I say it's a lie because you do it in a way where you put so much pressure on this wound being the reason you don't have what you want, this problem. You put so much pressure on this problem being the reason that you cannot get rid of this problem. Because if you get rid of this problem, you have to succeed. And then there's another fear, far bigger than any of the fears you've ever been willing to look at. And that's the fear of what if this big fat lie you tell everybody, including yourself, if it were to go away, still wouldn't make you great. What if you had all the willpower in the world and you went all in and you still failed? Oh, nope. Better never find out. Because in this beautiful space where the wound is the reason, and I could be everything if it weren't for this wound, I'm this close to everything I've ever wanted. And it's actually been proven that if you were to like plug a human being into a machine the night before they left for a trip, they're in their office, they're at work, their flight's tomorrow. You plug them into a machine to see how happy they are. And then you plug them into the same machine the day before they've got to leave their trip, when they're sitting on the beach with their butt in the sand. You plug them into the same machine. They're happier the day before they leave in the office than they are at the beach the day before they leave. Because of what's up here. In one, they're legit in an office. In one, they've got their butt in the sand. They are happier in the office where it feels like everything is getting better than with their butt in the sand, thinking everything's going to go back. So you're blissfully happy with your problem because you have made a pact with yourself that as long as you could believe that this problem is the only reason you don't have what you want, you can also believe that you could have what you want, and that's enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough that your whole life you'll get to the end and you'll say, you know, such a shame that I never cracked that code. Such a shame that I never quite figured out how to have or be or say or do this, because if I would have, I would have been great. Such a shame. So here's the thing about leadership. Leadership is the courage to go find out if you really would be great on the other side of your problem. And if you find out that there's another problem after your problem, you'd have the leadership to address that problem. And then if you find out there's another problem after that problem, you'd be willing to address that problem. You change your problem, you change yourself, because yourself is your problem. You are your problem. Because if you didn't have your problem, you'd be great, but you're not. So you're your problem. Instead, what's the solution? No longer be the problem. But I don't know who to be if I'm not the problem. I've only ever known myself as the problem. I just don't have confidence. I'm just not pretty enough. I just don't have the it factor. Go get it. Make peace with it. Accept it. Do what you actually know you're supposed to do, and you will change the freaking world. Because if not, you're taking a leadership course, hoping you can change enough people to feel worthy of your life. And there are not enough people on the planet to give you that. Feminine energy leadership is as I lead myself at the most high vibrational caliber of leadership. And I inspire you to walk alongside me and influence you to walk alongside me with the highest, most incredible caliber of leadership. I know I am changing the world. That's feminine energy leadership. And it is the greatest thing on this planet. But it requires movement, not just thought. It requires action. So I'm going to ask you a really real question right now. What's the thing? What's the problem? The big one. The one it always boils down to when you don't do something. Your biggest one. The one that if you didn't have that, you'd be great. What is it? What's your one biggest thing? Financial power. I don't know. That's probably the one. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I'm not consistent enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough money. I'm afraid I'm going to look bad. I'm going to get ridiculed. I don't know. The older I get, the more I collect more self-doubt, no resources. I don't want to. I'm not smart enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have the willpower. No one will listen. I'm always expecting people to see the worst in me, self-doubt. But, and here's the thing, like, you're so humble. It's beautiful. You're so self-deprecating. I love you. You're right. You're right. People won't like you because you're so not likable. And the fact that you're so honest about that is so beautiful. This is modern day mind warp psychology. Look at this. You're right. You know, you're right. You don't know how, and you're too sensitive, but you know what? That's so beautiful that you're just willing to be so vulnerable about that. You're so wonderful that you relate to yourself as your wound. You doubt yourself. You can't thrive. No one will listen to you. You're so beautiful. Because if you were to say in this room, I'm confident, I can do this, everyone will listen to me. I can change the world, and I know it. I have the power to do whatever I want. I know exactly what I'm doing. This is the perfect time for me, and I'm so clear. People like me. People love me. You'd be terrified people won't like you for saying that. All of this we get applauded for. I made a post yesterday that I was excited because I got my first ever credit card since my bankruptcy. It's been 10 years. Almost 10 years. And finally, CIBC said, hey, Melanie Ann Layer, we think you're a trustworthy person. Would you like to have a $20,000 credit card? And I freaked out with joy. But you know what the most interesting compliment I got from being happy about my freedom? You're so humble. Kind of like, I love that you don't think you're worthy or haven't been worthy of a $20,000 credit card. That's my favorite thing about you. In the private responses on Instagram, it's the #1 thing people said to me. I love how humble you are. And I had to think about it. Like, is this humble or is this just joy? And I think what people are looking for are leaders who don't think anything is too beautiful to celebrate, who are grateful. But we've called that humble. It's not the right word. Grateful, connected. I don't need to be humble. I don't need to think less of myself. I get to be real freaking proud of me that I led a multi-million-dollar company without anyone wanting to give me 1 penny of credit. That I had people look me in my face and say, well, we understand you're a millionaire, but in that case, just pay cash for things. I'm proud of me. And that's not something I'm supposed to be allowed to say, but I am. I didn't let the circumstances stop me. In the time it took for the bank to pardon me from a bankruptcy, I became a multi-millionaire. By the time a bank was willing to lend me $20,000, I'd made 60 million without help. Whatevs. I'll figure it out. I'm awesome. I'll figure it out. I got this. We'll figure it out. We've got this. All things I'm not allowed to say. All things I've also been ostracized for saying because I've had copious amounts of hate for thinking I'm all that on the internet. I'm not supposed to. You're not supposed to. Leadership means you do what you've got to do. And you know that if you do what you've got to do, you're in a far better position to help people do what they've got to do. That's the real deal. That's the feminine energy leadership. It's like, I admire you. I love you. I am grateful for you. You activate me. You help me move. I am a greater person because when you're in the room, I feel like I can do big things. That is feminine energy leadership. And that's who I know I am on this planet. And I don't know that there's a greater thing to feel, to be. I want this for you so deeply because I think we've been told wrong what it means to be a good person and a good human. And it's really, really, really been disturbing to constantly wonder if being great costs us being good. And I'm really ready for a paradigm where that's not the case. Where it's not about being good people, it's about being great people who are also good. Because as it stands, you can most definitely be both. There's so many different kinds of people looking for leadership on this planet. And it's going to take leaders of all backgrounds, styles, shapes, sizes, ethnicities. We're going to need to see everybody that looks like everybody and feels like everybody and sounds like everybody have a leader that did something that they think every single thing that's I can't do it because we need a leader who's done it even though. So no one can say that the reason I can't do it is because you can, because look, they did it. Yes, but I can't because they did it. Well, I can't because they did it. Okay, you're right. Except I also have this problem. Well, that person did it. Well, I have this problem and this problem. That person also has both. What you gonna do about it now? When you've got enough models for self-actualization that you cannot be self-deprecating anymore. The new era of feminine energy leadership is shoulder to shoulder, together we rise. We've got this. And if you forget for a minute that you've got this, there's somebody else that's showing you what's possible. No question. And there's another big piece of this. We are going to have to be okay with everybody that massively disagrees with this. With all the people who really don't like seeing everything they've fought against becoming their entire life become possible, where they actually are met with the fact that they may have given their life away because they could have been great too, but they didn't have the courage, they're going to get real mad. And there's also going to be the people who freaking just worry about you. And that's not because they're bad people. It's because they've got the fear of society. They're riddled with it. They've been told their whole life they'd be bad if they became this. They love you with all their heart. It looks like you're becoming this. This is terrifying. They want to save your soul. They want to make sure that you don't end up one of those terrible people that they have literally played small not to become their entire life. And so they worry about you. So give compassion to those who worry. They love you. They're treating you the way they treat themselves, with extreme limitation, fear, and doubt. They can't even give themselves any better. How could you expect them to give you any more? Give extreme compassion. And for the people who are just mad about it, let them be mad. Let them be big mad. Because if that's all they're ever going to be, they're going to be mad at whoever self-actualizes. And if you were to play smaller, just to not bother them, they'll be mad at me instead. Or her, or him, or them. Whoever decides to rise will make them mad. Because what really makes them mad is the fact that someone is doing the very thing they know they could have done. And so let them be mad. Let them be mad. We live in the most incredible time. We're all telling each other the same thing. I see it across all industries. I see it even within young teenagers, the bullying, the tearing people down, the being hyper vulnerable to compensate for not doing things so that you don't get the result, but you get the sympathy. The need for validation, the need for external validation, the entire world is craving it. We're all, in every society all over the globe, behaving the same way on social media. Doesn't that tell us something? Fundamentally, we're trying to break the mold. We don't know how. We're going to need leaders. It's time for leadership. And if you know deep down that you're supposed to be great, then you've got to make a decision on whether or not you're ready to let go of this problem that you have so carefully selected for yourself. That, yes, of course, it would be so great if you could let it go, but you are not doing whatever it takes to make sure it goes away. Because if it went away, you would have to succeed. And there's so much fear. And it's so much more cozy to say that if this problem were gone, you'd be successful. It's so much more cozy. I see it all the time. I see it, my clients, I didn't even launch. I didn't even write a post. I didn't even do a thing. If I would have, imagine how successful I'd be if I would have done this. I did this, and this year, Lisa, I really acknowledge you for saying that here. And I'm excited to see what happens next. Because it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to conquer it. And once you've conquered it, you open the door to so many people who said it and didn't change it. You've got this. Self-leadership is the most effective method of world transformation on the planet, and it's why we've made sure people don't self-actualize. Because it has been easier up until now to let the masses be the masses and have a few certain leaders, but the world is changing. We need tons of leaders. Tons of leaders. So what I would love for you to do is to really, really get clear with yourself tonight. And I'm going to also ask you to step up in a major way, because there is also the grandiose gesture, and I'm going to be like, I'm not playing around in this masterclass. Like I am delivering it as it is in this masterclass. There's also a very strong validation that comes with declaring your problem and having a lot of love. We've seen one person here. Lisa has said strongly what it is that she's working on, and she's getting a lot of love for declaring it. That's not enough. And Lisa, I'm going to give you the greatest gift in the planet, no matter how good it feels for everyone to tell you you've got this. Don't let that be the booby prize. It's not enough for people to be proud of you for thinking you'll do it. Do it. If you come into this group and you make a swooping gesture sentence about what you're going to change, and you get all the validation in the world, and then that's all you get, it's still not enough. I want you to declare what it is that you're going to change, but in tomorrow's module, we're going to go further than that. I don't want you to write this declaration just to get love and support. You may get love and support. That's brilliant, but do not write this in order to get validation. It would be perpetuating the exact thing we're trying to avoid. Don't do this for people to see it. Don't do this for people to think you're great. Don't do this for people to cheer you on. Do this because you freaking mean it. Do this because you're ready to lead yourself. The entire world, will change. I guarantee this. The minute the problem you have been relating to for the entirety of your life disappears, you will have to become someone else. Your entire life will change when that problem disappears. Do it for that. There is no amount of external validation that can give you what pride can give you. The feeling inside of being so freaking proud of yourself, there is nothing like that on earth. I want that for you. Because once you have it, you can speak it to other people. It's validation is the booby prize. You being proud of me is the booby prize. Me being proud of me, that's it. And you know that you're playing so freaking small. I know you know. There's no amount of anybody telling you they're proud of you in this group that'll make up for how much you know you're supposed to be doing more. And not even from a place of like beating yourself up that you're never enough. Like we're not even playing that game right now. You just know you were meant for great things. So, are you ready? And don't let other people's applause be the bright, shiny light where you think if you just declare things and you get the feeling of people being proud of you. People being proud of you is nothing in comparison to you being proud of you. And you won't, not deeply, not 100%, not fully, until you let go of this story. And right now, it's felt more comfortable to live with the wound and the dream than to find out who you are on the other side. But I hope in this module, I have created in you a desire, a strong desire to find out who you are without this problem. Because I can tell you this person is fascinating and extraordinary and brave and powerful and interesting. Like you're going to love yourself on the other side of this problem. And there may be another problem, but then you'll be able to trust in your own self-leadership, and you'll be able to conquer the next problem with so much more ease. You've had this one for a long time. If we don't do the things, shame will continue to burn beneath us. It's, you know how you feel inside. You know how it feels to be trapped by the story. And you can overcompensate all you want in life. You can try to save the planet to run away from this feeling. It will not go away until you move the problem. It's time to move the problem. So take some time with yourself and really get clear on what this is. And you may have a few. You may find that there's a few things. I don't have any willpower and I don't know what I should be doing. I don't even know what I should be doing. And I'm not even trying to figure it out because I don't know. I don't know is an amazing wound. It's one of the best ones. Because it's like, how can you be mad at someone that doesn't know the answer? You just don't know. Be nice. But you do know. I don't. You do. Well, if I'm supposed to know, I just cut the crap. You know. What's the thing? Be honest with yourself. If you can change, there's like 7 weeks left to this year. You could leave 2022 in the dust like this was the greatest breakthrough of your freaking life. But you got to be so honest with yourself, like the most honest you've ever been in your whole entire life, because you cannot move people if you cannot move yourself. You can just push people and pull people, because this is the thing. If you are not leading yourself, it means you are not moving. And there's only 1 or 2 things we can do from a sedentary position. I can push you or pull you. That's it. If I'm not moving, I can only push you or pull you. There's nothing else I can do. But if I'm moving, I can do anything. We can go in any direction. We can freaking fly if I'm moving. But if I don't move and my feet are glued to the ground, I can only ever push or pull you to lead you, and that's never enough. So we've got to get uprooted, both feet out of these shackles, out of these problems that we've carried our entire lives. Face the next problem, whatever it is, because you may have so many things you've broken through, but you're still keeping this one. And we're going to move this one. We're going to leave it in the dirt in 2022. This part doesn't come with us into the future. It's like we're taking our power and we're leading ourselves. And as a result, the world will move. Shoulder to shoulder. Together we rise. All of us equal power, but different. It's time. I look forward to seeing what your thing is, what your obstacle is. I want to know what the problem is, and I want you to tell me what you already know you need to do in order to solve it. Because you already know. You may need a good scream. Put your head in the bathtub. Because it's so frustrating. You've wasted so many years. It's sickening. But no more. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Do this work. You will not regret it. I'm telling you, this will change your life. I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow.